Hello everyone, how's it going? It's me, Zimzilla, and this is definitely the weirdest, probably, video I have ever done. It's a reaction, response to, Commissar Gamza's video. This is actually one of his Could So-and-so Survive in Warhammer 40k, and as you can see by the title right here, it's Godzilla. So I've already watched the video through. I'm going to be sort of giving my responses to things I feel Gamza overplayed with Godzilla and underplayed Warhammer, and I'll probably give my thoughts about like how he ran the video in a sort of way, and sort of talk about like why he kind of overplayed Godzilla Earth in a few ways. But let's get into it, shall we? Of course, we're starting off with some good old '98 footage here. And oh yeah, this is the whole Godzilla like anime sort of videos that we've seen on YouTube. I've loved these. These are really cool. Better than the actual films. Hello, Gamza.
Godzilla survive in a Warhammer 40k universe. I don't know what the hell that was either. All right, my boys. I'm like really excited for this episode.
So am I.
Than normal because
I'm actually gonna pause on all of these videos, or comments I should say, so that I could see what everyone is saying. So apparently this is when they're talking about bringing up Godzilla. Unfortunately, no, he's a big slow target. And if there is one thing the Imperium is great at, killing its big slow targets. Hell, if they want to keep the planet he's on, then they would just deploy a Titan Tyranid Hunter Force. Think Pacific Rim, but bigger with more bigger guns. So that's not entirely inaccurate, but it's also going to depend on the Godzilla, especially. It's going to really depend on the Godzilla, because actually, to give 98 some credit, 98 would essentially be like a Tyranid infestation, but probably a lot easier to deal with, actually, in a way. So, depending on what kind of world that the 98 Godzilla was on, his sort of influence on the planet would either be a lot worse or a pretty much like a minor annoyance. But yeah, no, Godzilla and the Tyranids, that definitely Tyranids being like bugs, animalistic in a lot of ways. People compare them to Godzilla a lot if Godzilla's brought up in the Warhammer 40k sort of discussions. So I don't think this question is actually too it's not unfair to Godzilla to say that maybe a Tyranid Hunter Force could maybe take him out, but that depends on the Godzilla, and the only real Godzilla I could think of that could die to a Titan Force from Warhammer 40k would probably be the 98 Godzilla. Maybe the 2000 Godzilla, despite that being my favorite Godzilla. We've already seen that Godzilla could get a lot of its skin blasted off due to just sort of basic human missiles. Not to mention GMK Godzilla was able to take damage from being hit from the inside. So it's very possible that more advanced weapons from Warhammer 40k second, or Warhammer 40k in the Dark Age of technology, all that kind of stuff, and even Eldar stuff, Necron weapons, could penetrate a lot of the Godzilla hides. But it's especially, actually, even one of the more powerful Godzillas, like the Heisei Godzilla, we could see that it took a lot of damage from getting shot in the mouth, because the Super X, which I'd say is not as advanced as a lot of like the ships from Warhammer 40k, could distract that Godzilla and then shoot him in the mouth, which caused a lot of damage to him. And the only reason that Heisei Godzilla survived that was because of the lightning re-energizing him. So it's not out of the question that a Tyranid Hunter Force, if they could steady Godzilla, could probably kill him and put him down that way, because it's been done before with less advanced technology. So this isn't as like, oh my gosh, Warhammer 40k can't lose, as Gamza is making it out to be. It's very possible that a Godzilla could die in this fashion. They probably, actually, the Heisei Godzilla might not exactly lose the first time. The Tyranid Hunter Force that fights him the first time would probably get demolished, but once they realize Godzilla's patterns, Godzilla would probably get taken down pretty easily.
listen, all right. Every time Godzilla gets suggested for these could they survive videos,
Could Godzilla, no, they would eat his ass with Exterminatus. He'll be talking about Exterminatus later, so I will not discuss Exterminatus right now.
there's always been that 40k fan who jumps in and he's like, Godzilla couldn't even take down a Titan. Godzilla would just die in 40.
Yeah, no, this is definitely one of those buttermilk Bob situations. No, Godzilla's not gonna get well. 98. 98 could probably get taken down by a bolter. Actually, like the little mini 98 Godzillas definitely could die to a bolter. Maybe a squad of Space Marines could probably kill the big 98 with a bolter actually, because 98 Godzilla could bleed from automatic fire, so like LMGs, which are like held by humans, not even like ones that are mounted on vehicles, were able to make 98 bleed. And even small arms fire like M16s and stuff could make him bleed. That's how Nick Tatopoulos in the 98 film was able to get the blood sample in the first place. They never hit him with the missiles that first time. And that's definitely a bolter could probably kill the 98 Godzilla if there was enough concentrated fire. Of course, like a Titan with any of its armaments is definitely more powerful than a F-15 in our world. So I think it's definitely likely that even an enraged 98 or even a fleeing 98 would die to any kind of weaponry in terms of bolters. But that's neither here nor there.
How could anybody?
I doubt Godzilla's skin is tougher than Demon Hide. Godzilla's out of his league in 40k. He's basically one of the monsters on Caliban with atomic breath, hence death by bolter. He's nothing in 40k. He doesn't even have a flaming sword or plague cannon or anything. A footnote in Space Marine battle logs on the way to bigger and better things out there. I doubt Godzilla could even take a tech squad of Smurfs. The worst he could do is throw them around. No, no. Aside 98, I'm gonna say this a lot. Most of the time, Godzilla would actually be able to take down a tactical squad of Marines. Most Godzillas, barring that really bad one.
Come to that conclusion. Okay, look, I gotta stop. Let's just jump off in this video. All right. So there have been many different
So
Godzillas.
we'll talk about actually the six Godzillas, or five technically, that he brings up here in this picture: 62, 75, or 74, which are the same Godzilla. It's the same character. 2000, 2002, 98, 2014. So this version of Godzilla, which is the predecessor of this one, this Godzilla is that's him in his younger years. So at this point, this Godzilla is extremely weak to electricity, basic human tension wires and stuff that can deter him from a city. So if a hive city was able to set up electrical defenses, this Godzilla is not getting, and he will actually probably just walk away and he can live out his peaceful existence. He's never going to go near any kind of hive cities or planets that have a lot of electricity defending themselves. So that's kind of out of the question. And if the Titans had access to large electrical based weapons that could output more than sort of our own basic electrical fences, wires, stuff like that, more than 1,000 volts, it's gonna hurt him. And if it gets even worse, it could definitely kill Godzilla at this point in his life. However, at this point, Godzilla has taken on characters from the Zone Fighter series, and these are monsters that exceed stuff like King Ghidorah in terms of weight and size, although not necessarily in size, but he's also had his entire hand stripped to the bone, obviously lost an eye, but he's regenerated from all these things, and his punches are essentially going into the megatons of power, and his breath, like similar to the original 54, which is even shown here, could boil ocean water. So I would say this Godzilla has a pretty good likely chance of surviving in 40k actually, if he allied himself with humanity. And I don't think that necessarily the Imperium would care too much about Godzilla, because at this point he's just chilling. He's doing his own thing. He's not going to be attacking cities and stuff. But if he was to fight the Imperium, there's a likely chance he could die, as he was made to bleed at this point by Mechagodzilla with Space Titanium. Of course, we don't know exact numbers for Space Titanium's density, stuff like that, but a continuous assault from Mechagodzilla was able to cause this Godzilla to bleed. A mixture of ballistic weaponry with missiles from Space Titanium and light wave lasers from his laser beams. So there is that. There are technologies that could repel Godzilla, such as Mechagodzilla's shield, all that jazz. So this is more likely could survive, but very likely could still die. This Godzilla 2000, my favorite Godzilla. This Godzilla was able to get a lot of his skin blown off from just sort of high-tech ballistic missiles, but other than that, like, there's a very good chance that still a lot of Warhammer 40k's weaponry would be able to put a dent in him. But due to this Godzilla specifically having the Regenerator G1 aspect to him, which was sort of how his regeneration was explained, he's basically immortal unless he's killed in combat. But certain forces like the Necrons, Tyranids, they could definitely plow through his Regenerator G1 abilities because it doesn't take its longest time, but it does take a little bit of time for him to regenerate fully. And then moving on to this Godzilla, the 2003 2002 against Mechagodzilla Kiryugoji. This Godzilla was able to tank railguns, large hardpoint missiles, and then, of course, the Absolute Zero Cannon, taking that point blank, only receiving a chest wound. However, that chest wound still hurt when he got hit with it, and that was from maser cannons. And the maser cannons are obviously, they're packing actually more electricity than the stuff that was repelling this Godzilla, so Kiryu could probably kill this Godzilla. But Godzilla power scaling aside, this Godzilla is still susceptible to electrical weaponry. He's susceptible to ice-based weaponry, as that whole Absolute Zero Cannon put a dent in his chest. And if there's anything in 40k that can deal with ice, that probably is going to hurt this Godzilla. It may not kill him outright, but it will be able to drive him away. So he's not really going to be posing too much of a danger if they know how to deal with him. 98, just gets slapped. He literally has the worst matchup in the entire universe. He's not durable enough to survive a lot of 40k weapons, and he's also not fast enough to avoid a lot of things. And if he's getting hunted by the Necrons, the Tyranids, or Chaos, yeah, he's either getting corrupted or he's biomass. So this Godzilla gets slapped entirely. Now, 2014. He got hurt from naval ship shooting him in the gills. Of course, he got dropped from orbit. He survived mass extinction events, but that doesn't change the fact that human weapons, if put in the right place, can still kill him. And if a Space Marine team, Imperial Guard, realize this, target those, and this Godzilla is definitely going to be put out of commission. However, characteristic wise, this Godzilla really doesn't bother too much with humans. It's only if something is disturbing the natural order. So, say orcs, Tyranids, Chaos comes to a planet, Godzilla's really going to be fighting them rather than like humans. So, the Imperium would not have much to worry about from this specific Godzilla. But so to wrap things up, could be killed, definitely could be killed, easily gets slapped, possible. The one of the least likely to be killed, but still could be. So Kiryu Goji, 74 Goji, and 2000 Goji are the most likely to survive. And this is the Godzilla from the comics. One of the more powerful Godzillas, actually. This one is one that has the most likely chance of surviving. This is the Godzilla from Godzilla in Hell. This Godzilla was able to survive going through all the different circles of hell, defeated a demon that was able to sort of manipulate his powers. He turned the demon's like kind of trick to devour him against him, and used other demons to reform his body and shoot a really powerful atomic breath. So this Godzilla definitely has a chance of surviving in 40k. Because actually, the IDW Godzilla, by its own creators, is stated to be basically pure energy, and he could reform himself if he wanted to. So this is actually, right here, Gamza does not talk about this Godzilla. He's the one Godzilla that would actually have the best chance of surviving in 40k, because he's like essentially his own like chaos god. In a way. He's not really a chaos god, but you get my point. Alright, using Anime Goji.
Did what every good Godzilla does, and that's rain down destruction upon the human civilization.
Yep, that's about right.
15,000 survivors opted to flee the Earth in search of a new homeworld.
And he doesn't mention this, but this is after multiple fights with Godzilla, where Godzilla was slapping monsters, and he was also slapping humanity with advanced technology. The humans that we see in the anime trilogy are probably some of the most advanced that we've ever seen them. They were using a mixture of alien technology with like their own stuff that's being augmented, having monsters at their disposal like Gigan to help them out. So yeah, this is all about right.
Without humanity to annoy him, Godzilla naturally became the ruler of Earth. Because he is a plant-based life form, he possessed the ability to terraform Earth with his own genome, giving rise to new plants and very powerful creatures. Now,
Yep.
eventually humanity would return to Earth, but 20,000 years later, only to find that Godzilla had terraformed the entire Earth. They eventually attempted to take back Earth, and they got into another fight with a Godzilla Godzilla. However, this was Godzilla Filius. It is a younger version that basically Godzilla, the original one, had spawned. They did manage to kill the young one. Now, initially they thought they had killed the original Godzilla that drove them from Earth to begin with. However, that one, in the time span that they were gone, grew into something way more powerful.
Okay, so background to Phileas. Phileas is, of course, the spawn of the original Godzilla in this timeline. However, the thing with Phileas is that they think it's the real Godzilla because he's exactly the same as what Godzilla appeared when they were fighting him on Earth back during his first appearance. So, in every sense of the word, Phileas is not a spawn. He's more closely related to like a clone, essentially. So, Phileas is as powerful as Godzilla was back in the day when they fought him. Not to mention, they had prep time and understood how to fight Godzilla at this point, so they were able to devise a strategy with minimal resources. So, the resources that the Eratrum used to combat this Godzilla on Earth would probably be a lot less than the forces the Imperium could use to combat Godzilla, and that also the Imperium would have more forces than any of the battles in which Godzilla Earth, when he was the size of Phileas, was taking part in, such as Operation Long March. They have the Imperium has more resources to throw at it than Earth did against this Godzilla. That's my entire point. So even though they were able to kill this Godzilla and then, oh no, it's not the real Godzilla, it doesn't really mean much because they were able to do it with far less resources and also far less advanced technology in comparison to what the Imperium or any other faction in the Warhammer 40k universe has to offer. So I'm not sure why he's making a big deal like, oh, Godzilla was actually way more powerful. Like, they essentially defeated the thing that cost them Earth to begin with, so that's still a big accomplishment in and of itself, and sort of shows that, yeah, Godzilla, especially this one, is still not invincible.
In contrast to all previous iterations of the character, Godzilla Earth's design was based on trees rather than reptiles.
Well, technically, yes. The like shape was supposed to look very much like reptiles, but his skin and sort of background are more inspired by plants. But that's not exactly like a big oh gotcha. You don't know what you're talking about moment though.
Co-director Shizuno elaborated, stating that trees are currently the largest and most widespread organisms on Earth, with the ability to live for thousands of years while typically requiring only light and water to survive. Furthermore, trees contain trace elements and generate electrons when performing photosynthesis. This influenced Godzilla Earth's electromagnetic abilities. In Shizuno's words, we expanded from the idea of if a plant had undergone superevolution due to its cellular structure, perhaps containing metallic elements,
I want that
its
tree.
whole body became a power generator as a result. In this planet of the monsters, I thought Godzilla would be like a huge world tree at the center of its unique environment. Alright, boys, let's talk about the size of Godzilla. Titans in Warhammer 40k are the big boys in this universe. They are touted as massive monsters or mechanical giants, towering over the battlefield. Well, the average height of a Titan in Warhammer 40k is 36 meters tall. A Reaver Titan stands at
So, Big Ben's 96 meters, Reaver Titan 36 meters. That's actually around the size as some of the smaller monsters in the Godzilla series, and that's like the Showa series, so that's like the smallest of the small monsters. So, something along the lines of Baragon. Baragon's like around 35, 30 meters. So, that's around like for a Godzilla fan to translate that from Warhammer 40k. That Titan he just mentioned is about Baragon size.
15 meters tall. The
That 50 meters again, that's smaller than almost every monster like in the Godzilla series. So there was that.
average Warlord Titan is 33 meters tall.
So a Warlord Titan is essentially Baragon size for Godzilla fans at home.
Now, this is your big boy Titan, having even a single Warlord Titan, but these two are of a very different type. Now, Emperor class Titans are extremely rare, and they are the biggest and the strongest class of Titan. You very rarely see these guys on the battlefield because of how few in number that they are. They average at 60 meters tall.
Okay, so the I also want to talk back to the Godzilla the anime universe. So a lot of the walkers and mechs and like the vultures, for the people who know that, the vultures are the advanced mechs that were built during Godzilla City on the Edge of Battle. And those mechs, like, they're even smaller than like these basic titans right here, only like a few meters tall. They're not much bigger than humans, in fact, actually. And although they are fast, they aren't putting out that much firepower. Like, they couldn't do really anything to Godzilla. But these Titans here, they're about as big as, like, they're bigger than the Super X, which was able to take down Godzilla. Same thing with Super X2, which wasn't able to take down the emerged Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Biollante, but still put up a pretty good fight. And that was only one Super X, mind you. And then, of course, bigger than the Super X3, which is able to freeze a burning Godzilla, which was a Godzilla with far stronger atomic breath and nuclear pulse powers. So, again, these small titans, they're obviously going to be not as fast as, like, a mobile sort of flying vehicle, or they're not going to be as fast as some of the mechs in the anime universe, but they're still going to be packing more firepower. Now, onto the Warlords. Again, Baragon class, still bigger than a lot of things humans in the Godzilla universe are packing, but they are still smaller than a lot of their mechas. So, for instance, Mechagodzilla is at 50 meters, and the original Godzilla also 50 meters, making them smaller than an Emperor-class Titan. However, once you start getting into the Heisei era, original Heisei Godzilla 80 meters, bigger than an Emperor-class Titan, bigger than all these Titans. And then going into like the later Heisei, 100 meters, which is where big Final Wars Godzilla, really powerful, is sort of standing. So he's bigger than a lot of the other Titans, essentially. That's what Gamsa's point will be. Yeah, no, that's upgraded King of the Monsters legendary Godzilla, but again, big issue with this is that concentrate fire right there, and you're gonna get a very annoyed legendary Godzilla, and that still hurt him. Not to mention biological weapons developed by less advanced humans were able to kill him. So essentially, without nuclear like power to bring this Godzilla back to life, he was essentially dead. So this Godzilla could be killed by normal non like sci-fi enhanced humans. So there is that. So size may be something to this Godzilla, and I know people always said, "Oh yeah, Titan outsizes Godzilla." An Emperor Titan is outsizing like the smallest incarnations of Godzilla, but okay.
That's right. He's twice the height of Warhammer 40K's biggest boys. No, impossible. The 40K.
Oh, Gilliman.
Oh, I'm not done with you yet, Buttermilk Bob. You see, because we're not talking about the 2014 Godzilla. We're talking about Godzilla Earth. And he stands at 300 meters tall.
Mm-hmm. That is very true. Okay, so it's interesting that he shows this shot and he doesn't show something being destroyed. This instance right here is Mechagodzilla City deflecting Godzilla's atomic breath with nanometal particles, which essentially disperse the atomic breath. There's the city right there, and that was the entrance where they plan to lure Godzilla in. But yeah, this Godzilla has a very strong atomic breath, but there is a big weakness in this Godzilla, but he's going to go over all of Godzilla Earth's powers, and I'll just sort of comment as they go along.
Atomic breath has a very wide degree of power, from being able to sink ships or destroy aircraft,
Yep.
all the way to fully capable of destroying something the size of the moon.
Okay, so this is the Gorath feat. In Godzilla Project Mechagodzilla, there is a asteroid planetoid called Gorath, which is from the original film. Gorath is coming towards Earth. It's going to destroy the planet if it's not stopped. Godzilla actually was chilling in the Arctic for some time, gathering his energies, and he fires a specifically like strong and developed atomic breath, which was able to destroy Gorath. That took him a long time. Because actually, at this point, Earth is facing like every Godzilla monster from the entire Godzilla pantheon at this point was roaming the Earth somewhere. So Godzilla was actually sort of off the radar for a while, and he was charging up his breath so that he could destroy Gorath. This isn't something he can just pull off on the fly. So I'm not sure why he's including this, but if he was going to include this, I would have appreciated it if he actually brought up the details regarding how powerful the atomic breath was and why specifically it was so powerful. Not to mention, during Operation Long March, Godzilla was buried, and it took him like a little bit of time for him to get out of there. So, like any kind of force with some form of intelligence would be able to use this to like stop Godzilla and stall him. Not to mention that the only time Godzilla ever did this was never to fight humans. It was just to destroy Gorath. He never like waited underground or anything to like use an extremely powerful atomic breath to wipe out every human. So this isn't something that he like his character would do to fight against a force. So there is that.
Godzilla's destructive power increases so much, I have zero doubts he can destroy the Earth in a single blast if he desired to.
That's
But
possible. Yep.
this form of Godzilla is more of an avatar of the Earth, and I guarantee you he has no desire to actually do such a thing. Another offensive ability he possesses is his new plasma cutter. He whips his tail and produces a destructive wave, destroying everything in its path. He destroyed an entire United Earth military force in a single blow with it.
Oh, he's talking about essentially just a few cruisers, which again packing less sort of personnel than a like anything the Imperium has in terms of its ships. So the Imperium would still be packing more than essentially a ragtag team of people aboard the Eratrum were able to muster, and they were still able to kill Phileas. So there's that. Not to mention they'd expended a lot of resources to kill Phileas, so they were already in a more dire situation. And actually, I should also add that once they acquired Mechagodzilla City, which is essentially like a forge world in and of itself, like a micro forge world, they were able to almost kill this Godzilla until Godzilla pulled out a new power to save himself. But even then, there was a way for them to kill that Godzilla at that point. But Haru, the main character, chose not to because movie themes, all of that.
So this ability wipes out entire armies. As if these abilities weren't ridiculous as they are, Godzilla can also destroy you by just simply yelling at you.
Yeah, super oscillatory roar.
It produces destructive sound waves that blows up everything in its path. So he can literally yell at you, "Get off my lawn," and you'll just die. Now, Godzilla contains three massive capabilities that are defensive. One, because Godzilla's body is charged with so much damn energy, his dorsal fins at the top produce a strong electromagnetic field around him
Mm-hmm.
that shields him from tremendous amounts of damage.
The asymmetrical shield.
This shield is capable of taking multiple nuclear missiles at once. Yeah, it's that tough. Number two,
Yeah, to add further context to that, during Planet of the Monsters, the first book, not the movie Planet of the Monsters, Godzilla was in Middle America, so the president decided we're going to launch essentially our entire nuclear payload to destroy Godzilla, and it was his shield that defended him for most of it, and he was able to survive like thousands upon thousands of like nuclear strikes and emerged unscathed. And this is essentially at Phileas level. However, he did have to regenerate, but his main sort of energy source, his main dorsal plate, which is this Godzilla's weakness, was not exactly harmed, and that's what allowed him to survive. And not to mention, his shield only drops when he attacks, so if you're fighting Godzilla in a battle, if he attacks you, then you have an opportunity to strike, and if logistics from the Imperium or another faction is able to understand this with their technology, which these humans from the anime trilogy could, then it's very likely that they could destroy that one plate there.
doesn't even have a skeleton. His body is comprised of super strong muscle fibers that are embedded in a metallic substance. Basically, his body is made up of ultra strong steel wires or steel cables of some sort.
Yeah.
And he was shown
No, it was
His
because of his
shield
shield.
is impervious to nuclear damage, and his actual body itself can also take multiple nuclear blasts.
Well, no, his body could take nuclear blasts, but if his main sort of energy projection shield was destroyed, they could have reduced him and killed him at like his lower level Phileas stage. So it's not exactly correct, but okay.
And then we move on into number 3. Even if you somehow get past the first two defenses, Godzilla Earth has an incredible regeneration capability, capable of healing
Yes.
lost limbs and mortal wounds.
But again, this like his regeneration was taking like place over like months and all of that, days. In this shot right here, this is a fan animation of the anime Godzilla. He was never shown in the actual universe ever doing something where he just regenerated his hand right away. So there is that. But over the course of like a day, couple, he was able to regenerate his main back fin, which was destroyed by the humans in City on the Edge of Battle. So there is that.
This Godzilla simply doesn't stop until you've turned it into dust. Alright, now it's time to take this bad boy
Also, the triple laser thing never shown, completely fan animation.
and loaded with Warhammer 40k. And we're going to start this with Godzilla needs to arise on a planet of strategic value. Similar to a planet like Cadia, may it rest in peace, this means Godzilla would immediately be fighting enemies on all sides.
Hmm.
First, he would begin wiping out Imperial cities. Titans wouldn't be deployed fast enough because Godzilla can just walk up to the city in a matter of minutes and just wipe it out in a single attack. But for entertainment value, let's say that this city already had multiple Titans at the ready. Godzilla would engage them, and their void shields would likely be able to take a few hits from his atomic breath before he amps up the power even higher and simply reduces them to molten piles of slag.
Okay, so with this scenario, he's saying that essentially if Titans were deployed, then Godzilla would therefore know to use his voice shields to then kill Titans. When he does fight against Mechagodzilla City on City in the Edge of Battle, he does not really improve his atomic breath per se. He's just firing it as he closes in. And he is like a whole like couple kilometers away from the city itself, and it took him time, and there was enough prep time for the humans to therefore get into their vehicles, lure him away. And if we're talking where Godzilla's on an area of strategic importance, and we're gonna say the Imperium is able to muster everything it can to take down Godzilla, then the Imperium, with not only air support, obviously its ground forces, would have more than enough firepower to, if they hit Godzilla's back plate, he's not going to be able to muster his energies the same way. His shield's going to be gone, which, if the weapons are able to therefore damage his plates, they could therefore then also destroy his body. And if they are able to overload him, like with what the humans did in the anime trilogy, then that Godzilla just goes kaboom. It may actually take out a lot of Imperial forces just by the pure explosion of itself, but it's definitely possible for this Godzilla to fall if the Imperium is able to focus in on his weak point, because Gamza does not mention that this Godzilla has a very distinct weak point.
To add a little bit more information here, just one of his atomic breaths was measured at 3 terawatts of power. And this wasn't even his strongest blast. It was like a normal like atomic breath. And just so you know, 3 terawatts of power is enough to power the entire United States for many months. So yeah, that's going to reduce void shields down pretty quick. I also highly doubt that Titan weapons could do significant damage to this Godzilla. Even if they somehow overpower his ridiculous shield and hit his body, there's no guarantee that that weapon's going to do enough damage.
I would say no, because they could definitely take out they would be able, if they could take out his dorsal plate again, he's not gonna have a shield anymore. They would definitely have enough firepower to bombard him to the point of killing him, although they would definitely lose a lot in the process.
To his body. And let's go ahead and give it to them. Okay, somehow they drop his shield and cause so much damage to him. Then they get past just the sheer toughness of his body, and they cause damage to it. He's just gonna regenerate. So I
Yeah, no, his regeneration is not that fast. his regeneration, it took him again if something of his importance is destroyed. So the main plate that powers his asymmetrical shield is destroyed, it would take him like maybe a day at most. And if he's being bombarded, his regeneration will be overpowered, and he's gonna have to regenerate certain things to keep himself alive. And if he's not able to keep regenerating his plate properly and it keeps getting blown off, then he will without a doubt suffer against an a like combined Imperium force.
Don't think Titans are a very good matchup against this Godzilla. I think he's just way too powerful.
Yeah, I don't. I can agree with him there that Titans on their own would not be able to take down Godzilla. The Imperium would have to muster a lot of its forces if they wanted to take him down.
Another thing that I want to add here too is because everybody immediately screams exterminatus for every video that I make. They act like the Imperium just floats around and just loves blowing up their own strategic plans. No. Anyways, let's say that we have an exterminatus that's going to commence. Well, don't forget it's well within Godzilla's capabilities to fire from ground into space. So he actually is a threat to ships that are in orbit. He can blow them up.
He can blow up ships, but again, he would have to. He'd have to hibernate to then have the enough power to shoot his beam into space, still like what he did with Gorath. So this isn't something he can just pop off with on the fly. So just keep that in mind, please.
I would love to see that I think would be really fun is a hive fleet coming down on the planet to which Godzilla resides. Now, normally a hive fleet overruns a planet pretty quickly, but when you have a being like Godzilla, the Tyranids are going to be swarming. I imagine the ground being carpeted almost with like beetles. All you can see is like little glistening shells moving across the ground. It's almost like the ground itself is alive, and they're all swarming towards Godzilla, and I just imagine him erupting with all this power, especially like when he whips his tail and you have that huge wave that comes off of him, and he's just tearing apart millions of Tyranids in single attacks. So it's like whip my tail on this end, wipe out a million Tyranids, turn around, fire off an atomic breath, wipe out 3 million Tyranids. I mean, Godzilla, even in their movies that they had of him, of Godzilla Earth, I think they were saying that by the end of it, he had killed like over 700 million humans.
Okay, so again, big misconception. This isn't Godzilla may have killed a lot of humans, but again, the entire world was being overrun by giant monsters, and like even in the films, we see these monsters toppling like a single city. Just imagine that happening essentially everywhere all the time because monster apocalypse. That's essentially what this was for humans at this point. But Tyranids are actually interesting because aside from Godzilla Earth, every other Godzilla is very susceptible to a Tyranid hive fleet. Godzilla is again extremely vulnerable to like any of the hive fleets that would be able to just overrun him. He may be able to shoot his atomic breath a lot, but if the Tyranids just kept munching on him and they all combine their powers or using their acid and stuff, something Godzilla is weak to. Acid from creatures like Hedorah has been able to hurt him. Again, he's bled from getting hit by things like Gigan and of course Mechagodzilla. And that is something that the Hive Fleet could exploit, and therefore they could start to devour Godzilla's biomass, specifically all the reptilian Godzillas. In the case of Earth, since he's using Earth specifically, this Godzilla Earth, he could use a lot of his powers to therefore stop a lot of Tyranid ground forces, but if a Hive Fleet realized the fact that Godzilla is of extreme biomass importance, considering like what he's doing to a planet, then if they put in enough forces, they could definitely, if they were able to get onto him and therefore bite off like parts of his shield, like the plate that grants him his asymmetrical shield, then this Godzilla is going to have to power himself up and expend a lot of energy, which is then going to cause him to like hibernate again to reclaim his energy, which is what happened between City on the Edge of Battle and Planet Eater. Then the Tyranids would have an opportunity to strike and therefore then kill this Godzilla. So it's definitely possible for the Tyranids to take down even Godzilla Earth. The one Godzilla that they probably couldn't be able to do this to would actually be IDW Godzilla, because that Godzilla, again, his true form being composed of energy, he could actually, since he was able to do this to creatures of hell, it's very likely he could then, any of the Tyranids that absorbed his biomass, could overpower the Hive Fleet mines and therefore control like a bunch of Tyranids that would have their own atomic breath and essentially wipe out a Hive Fleet. So that is when I'm starting to wank off Godzilla here, is that there is indeed a Godzilla that could probably just completely slap a Hive Fleet.
think that would be a sight to behold, to just see millions of Tyranids being wiped out. Although I gotta say, guys, I honestly don't know how that would go. Tyranids have many, many numbers, and they also have some huge organic ships as well.
Yeah, see,
The
that's the
only thing
thing.
that I would be concerned with is if you manage to break the planet in half. Let's say that the Tyranids are so desperate for destroying Godzilla and he's just wiping just hundreds, like millions of these Tyranids out. Because I don't think that they can actually outdo his endurance. He's just going to keep firing off these blasts. None of the cruisers they have are big enough. The only thing that they could possibly throw at him is maybe one of these gigantic ships.
No, the Tyranids wouldn't even need to use one of their bioships to take down Godzilla. The fact is that Godzilla, in terms of his properties, would be of such strategic importance to the Tyranids. Like, this isn't something like they're fighting the Necrons or the Tau, where they're losing a lot of forces and the biomass just isn't worth the squeeze. In this case, the biomass is definitely worth the squeeze. And if we're looking at like flying forms of Tyranids, they could definitely get to his plate before any of the ground forms could. And if they bite off that plate, again, this Godzilla is going to have to expend a lot of energy to kill a lot of Tyranids quickly. And he's going to be very vulnerable, which would then allow the Tyranids to therefore start gnawing on that biomass and transferring it to the hive fleets themselves before this Godzilla could therefore regenerate fast enough to then get back in the fight to stop a hive fleet. So this Godzilla would definitely, the Tyranids are not exactly a hard counter, but they are definitely a counter to this Godzilla.
And let's just say, for this purpose, for entertainment, he just crashed the ship right into the planet because they're like, all right, if we can't kill Godzilla, we're just gonna have like a massive ship come out and just like crash through the planet to try to
I should
destroy
get
it.
into these
And then we'll
games,
have the
but my
biomass themselves.
laptop would probably crash.
Afterwards, we'll crack the planet in half, kind of disrupt Godzilla. Maybe he's floating in space, and then we'll just begin to eat the planet or something else weird like that. That would be a weird one because I kind of imagine Godzilla not dying in space and then just floating in space looking for something else. Like, what am I gonna do?
Well, we've never seen Godzilla Earth in space, but we do know that the show of Godzilla, a Godzilla that would definitely die to the Tyranids, was able to survive in a very like low oxygen atmosphere on Planet X. So it's very likely that even if you threw Godzilla into space, he could probably survive. But then again, we do know that the G cells from the Heisei Godzilla were able to survive in space long enough to mutate into Space Godzilla. So keep that in mind, folks. Woohoo!
I do from here? I'm just floating in space. They couldn't kill me, but they basically knocked me off the planet. And this is where our wild card comes in. You guys know every single episode, I love to throw a wild card in here. And that is, and hear me out here because this might get a little weird, that is meteoric bombardment that transfers microbes into outer space. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say that
I'm just
you're in
gonna
a
lower the volume for
high
this.
level battlefield. Something crashes into the Earth.
So he's sort of essentially talking about the fact that like if you shot Godzilla, parts of him would kind of fly off into space and therefore spawn new Godzillas. We do see this with Space Godzilla, so it's very possible that if they're fighting the Heisei Godzilla, therefore they could then have like a Space Godzilla situation on their hands. But then again, that's a whole different character, and we do have something like Biollante, but that was specifically created. And also, actually, not to mention the fact is that Phileas took years to develop, so it's not like this is going to happen instantaneously.
Somehow fired some ridiculous missile that did that damage to him. And if any of that gets into outer space and his DNA lands on a distant planet somehow, maybe many years later, eventually it will begin to form and then you'll be able to
For the
kill it.
Heisei Godzilla, give it maybe about a year or so. You could maybe get a Space Godzilla situation. With Phileas, it took a long time again. 10,000 years for Godzilla to terraform the planet, although he could have terraformed it quicker. We only see the time between when they left and then 20,000 years, although it was 20 years when they left, but Godzilla had not terraformed the planet. And then when they used their faster than light travel to return to Earth, there was a time dilation which caused it to be 20,000 years past the time they had returned, and Godzilla terraformed the planet. So again, probably was a while for Phileas to appear, and Phileas is the only other Godzilla we see, so clearly this isn't something that happens extremely fast. Like, for example, like the Indominus Crusade was shorter than the time it took for Phileas to appear on Earth. So there was that.
Spawn new life forms that will eventually become Godzilla yet again. And this is where again that wild
Like,
card
essentially,
comes in.
actually, I may be getting the math wrong, but like the time between the Great Crusade, like 30K, and then 40K now is essentially 10,000 years, give or take. So the Great Crusade and all the events of 40K happened quicker than it took Phileas to appear.
Health hardware. That's the way that eventually he's going to get off of this planet. And there's actually an astrophysicist who's talked about if we would find life outside of Earth, and that we would actually find a lot of our planet Earth's life organisms from the past on the moon itself, and all the meteor impacts that it's had. Interesting concept. Now, the last one that I'm going to end off here is chaos. And that is its possibility that if Godzilla gets pushed so much for so long, let's say you've got an Imperium of man, let's say you've got orcs that attack, let's say maybe you have Eldar or Tyranid, anything else like this, might eventually, this is a big might, a big maybe, so to speak, might be able to get Godzilla angry enough, vulnerable enough, that maybe somebody like Korn can sense his anger and frustration at the world. And if Korn sees something as powerful as Godzilla, just maybe, again, this is a big maybe, he could put so much emphasis into Godzilla and drive him into an even greater rage.
Okay, so he's talking about the Chaos Gods now, and that's another thing a lot of Warhammer 40k's fans will talk about. It's like, oh, well, the Chaos Gods could totally slap Godzilla. In a way, you are very, very right. So I'm going to talk about each of the Chaos Gods one by one and how they could affect a Godzilla. So, for example, Showa Godzilla, specifically 54, he's driven by anger and like what happened to him in his mutations. So Korn could very much easily take away the like use his anger, and therefore you could have a Godzilla with the mark of Korn on his head, which is what Gamza says here later in this video. So 54 is definitely susceptible to Korn. Nurgle, of course, could easily rot Godzilla away. Tzeentch could use if we're talking about Godzilla who could survive, Tzeentch could definitely use Godzilla in his plans to topple the Imperium at strategic locations. He's going to be able to control Godzilla in a sense, but he could definitely, if he saw, like, if he put enough power to keep Godzilla alive and allow him to, like, regenerate from fights, then Tzeentch could definitely use him very well. Slaanesh is the one Chaos God that most Godzillas, there's nothing gonna affect him at all. But, going on, moving into the Showa Godzilla, I'm not really gonna differentiate between early and later Showa, so I'm just gonna like essentially talk about later Showa. Later Showa, again, he still falls prey to Nurgle and his rot. Tzeentch could probably still use him in his plans. Godzilla has been manipulated in the past, and he's been under mind control, so Tzeentch could definitely control him. Slaanesh, Godzilla takes pleasure in things, but it's not like an ecstasy sort of thing for him, so it's very much this Godzilla would not really be again seduced by Slaanesh. Slaanesh like essentially gets hard countered by a lot of the Godzillas anyway, because most of them are like very much animal level in terms of their enjoyment of things. So there is that. And then Korn, Godzilla can get angry and he can dislike things, but it's not like a seething great anger. And since this, like, the Showa Godzilla would actually be probably a lot more friendlier with the Imperium if the Imperium was able to realize that this creature is not going to, like, attack them if we don't attack him first, and he would be a great asset in terms of, like, defending an Imperial world. Korn would not be able to really do anything to Showa Godzilla. Heisei Godzilla, again, more animalistic. Nurgle essentially counters every Godzilla because of his plagues and stuff. Korn could influence later Showa, not later Showa, later Heisei Godzilla, because that Godzilla is when he's beginning to show far more human-like emotions. He shows like sadness when Godzilla Jr. is killed. So Korn could definitely use that specific Godzilla and fuel his anger and his pain to create a like slave of him. Once again, Slaanesh actually could maybe use like the raw feeling like Godzilla's having to put him under kind of control, but again, it's more likely Korn could do it. And once again, Tzeentch could use Godzilla in his plans, but he'd have to actually, if there was a way for Godzilla and Tzeentch to communicate, and if specifically with Heisei Godzilla, if Tzeentch could help Godzilla, like maybe like, oh, if you do this for me, I can bring back your son, and Godzilla realized like there is a way for his spawn to come back, because Godzilla did try on his own to bring Godzilla Jr. back from the dead. That it's very possible that he could become a pawn of Tzeentch if he was fighting against the Imperium, and Tzeentch put a lot of time and effort into keeping Godzilla alive and sort of powering him up with the warp. So there's that. Going on to early Millennium Godzilla, so like Kiryugoji, Millennium, 2000, and then Giragoji. A lot of those Godzillas, they're not really going to be affected too much by anything other than Nurgle, with the exception of maybe Zinch and Slaanesh kind of feeding off Kiryugoji's emotions. Because of course that one, the Kiryugoji specifically only attacked Japan because they were using the original Godzilla's bones to construct Kiryu slash Mechagodzilla 3. So that one is definitely able to be influenced by his emotions, and definitely again Korn could use that because Godzilla was not happy that they were using his ancestors' bones to create a weapon. So any Godzilla that's like has a lot of emotions, he would definitely be susceptible to the Chaos Gods. GMK Godzilla would definitely be susceptible to Korn because that is revived spirits of World War II. Who have come back to seek their revenge. And if we say that GMK Godzilla was brought into the 40K universe and there was some kind of relation between like original humanity, and humanity has forgotten like the sins of their past, and Imperium's really good about hiding the sins of their past, GMK Godzilla would definitely be a pawn of Korn, and that would be something very terrifying. Although that Godzilla was killed by kind of basic human weaponry and a lot of ingenuity, if that GMK Godzilla became a Daemon Prince and like the souls of the humans that were in that Godzilla were kind of corrupted by the warp, it's very possible you could have a very powerful Godzilla on your hands. Moving into Final Wars Godzilla, definitely a creature that can be influenced by hate and anger. So Korn once again, Nurgle again is going to be the thing that counters every Godzilla because of the rot, but Zinch and Slaanesh really wouldn't be able to do much with him, but Korn especially because that Godzilla is definitely seething with anger. But if once again, outside help, Manila is able to soothe Godzilla's anger in Final Wars, so 2004 Godzilla might not be able to be swayed by Korn if he has something like Manila by his side. But without Manila, 2004 Godzilla could definitely become a slave to anger and just kill all humans. And then with obviously not gonna include 98 because 98 gets slapped by everything in 40K, but the MonsterVerse Godzilla and Shin. Shin especially, he's just like an animal, but he evolves a lot. Again, Nurgle kind of corrupts him, but all the others don't really have much on him because he's not fueled by anything. And the same goes for 2014 and MonsterVerse Godzilla. He's not really going to be influenced by much, but he will be, of course, a character that will maybe be influenced by his emotions, but he's not ruled by them. And he sees himself as sort of a king, so it could be possible that if the Chaos Gods were to say like, oh, the humans are doing this, this, and this, Godzilla may be like, nope, that's a problem, stop that. Especially if like Godzilla was on a Forge world or a growing Forge world, then he could become a pawn of the gods. But Earth Godzilla has no emotions, so and none of the Chaos Gods except for Nurgle have any chance of really fighting him directly.
Can you imagine an absolutely mad Godzilla with a mark of corn
See, that's what I said, yeah.
he is just incinerating everything in his way.
Yeah, this is Heisei Godzilla right here, Burning Godzilla specifically, so this Godzilla could definitely be influenced by Korn specifically.
Dude, I think Korn absolutely loves Godzilla, just rampaging, just slaughtering everything in its path. Although, again, like I said, this Godzilla is more of like an avatar of Earth, and so he is more of a good guy. He just wants to protect Earth and be one with nature, so to speak. And he kind of sees humanity as a plague to get rid of. But again, if push comes to shove, what's a big move for Godzilla could get driven insane with anger, with constant bombardment on him and never having the ability to rest. But whatever happens here, I think people are really overestimating Warhammer 40K. Can Godzilla necessarily leave the planet? I don't think he's gonna just, shoot his atomic breath at his feet and fly off like the old Godzillas did, especially from space. That's gonna be so goofy. But imagine again his blood cells flying through space and landing on a planet like Catachan where it can flourish. And all of a sudden now you got this Godzilla DNA that's flourishing, and then you have mini Godzilla spawns happening all over again. That could be a ticking time bomb later on in the future, or at least a wild card. I do like the idea of him turning to Korn and just going on an absolute rampage. And imagine Korn pulling him into the world, which would be really powerful for Korn to do. Like, that's a lot of energy to pull. But then he pushes Godzilla out into a random planet. So you have this massive portal that opens up, and like this Korn Godzilla gets pushed out. That would just be insane. Honestly, if they could harness that power or transport Godzilla somehow, dude, like any planet he lands on, they're gonna take it over. That's just way too much power, especially if he's like infused with corn or some crazy thing like that. Anyways, I think I'm digressing too much on this. It's gonna be a fun idea to explore. Yes, Godzilla could definitely survive Warhammer 40K, and I really don't think there's a stand up to him. Titans? No, no way.
So, like, I'm not gonna finish off the rest of the video. It's just a few more digressing thoughts from him. But, like, Godzilla on his own, most versions would not survive in Warhammer 40k for long. But some would be able to survive if they had help from, like, the Chaos Gods. Certain Godzillas would be able to survive if they were allied with the Imperium. But again, this is more like the Imperium sees Godzilla as a non-threat, and therefore Godzilla sort of just does his own thing. And if threats came to the planet, Godzilla would be able to survive along with help from the Imperium. But on his own, there are a lot of factions. Again, I would say specifically the Necrons, the Tyranids, and then Nurgle's sort of his faction of Chaos would be able to take down Godzilla specifically. Korn could use Godzilla. Slanesh really doesn't have a lot to go from, even on any Godzilla that she could influence. It's not likely, but the Imperium could take down Godzilla if need be, and he was considered a threat to them, and they were able to mobilize properly. Godzilla actually kind of he crumps orcs. There's not really much the orcs could do, even with like a orc Wa. There's not enough power the orcs could muster specifically against Godzilla and how they fight in their battle tactics to really take down a Godzilla. Even like some of the like weaker versions of Godzilla, although they would be able to take down 98 Godzilla. Like that 98 gets crumped by everyone in 40k. I'm sorry, but so that's my video. It's kind of weird doing this where I'm recording and I'm just reacting to another video. This isn't something I'm going to want to do too much in the future. I just wanted to do this kind of quick on the fly because I saw this. I'm like, there's a little information that's wrong, but at the end of the day, even the Godzilla version you picked was not even the best version to survive in 40k. Earth can definitely get killed in 40k. You're definitely kind of overestimating the power of this specific Godzilla because he's kind of big, and he's not even the biggest Godzilla. But that's all, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Zimzilla, and I will see you guys next time.